Who would be a Wolves fan, eh?
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning to Wolves fans, and if there are still people from Middlesbrough that are watching us through hate, hello to all of you guys as well. I'm Ed. I have the honour of being your host tonight on the Wolves Fancast. As always, brought to you by the Sports Social Podcast Network, FC Quiz app, and the Boston Coffee and Vending Company. Tonight, I've got Jay, Andy, and Ali with me to discuss the game on Sunday afternoon at the very curious 2:05 kickoff down the road at Villa Park against. Are they a local rival? Andy, I'll come to you first. Is this a rivalry?
I mean, not massively. I know, like I grew up in Dudley, so it was split between. It was mostly Wolves, Villa, and a couple of Albion. Surprisingly, you'd think there'd be more, but because we were never in the same league, there was never that vitriol between ourselves. So it's always been friendly rivalry to me at best. The last couple of years, I think it has changed a little bit. Obviously, playing them a little bit more often, but it's not got the same as, like, even against Birmingham, feels like there's more needle against them than there does Villa personally.
What about you, Jay? What do you think?
So I'm a bit torn. So it's like there's not the hatred like there is for Albion. It's like the thought of losing to Albion makes me feel sick. But like Villa, there aren't now as many Villa fans as I do Albion. So like it's just as, if the pressure feels just as kind of as much, but the hatred isn't quite there, like you say. It has picked up a little bit over the past couple of years, probably more on social media than actually in person. But yeah, don't want to give the bragging rights to their friends.
Yeah, I grew up down the road from you, Andy, and it was mostly Villa fans. And growing up in the 90s, you couldn't have a conversation with them about football because they just said, well, we're in the Premier League. And that was the end of it. So I've always really despised Villa because of that. And it's mostly through jealousy. But Ali, as a non-West Midlands native, what's your thoughts on the rivalry?
I think you take what you can get, don't you? So at the moment, that is in the Premier League, that's our rival. And it's been a kind of a good derby for us, hasn't it? We've had some good results against them, home and away. And that's been good. But yeah, I don't think traditionally I would have, as though Villa are a local rival, so to speak. I say it'd be West Brom, and that is a whole different ball game, isn't it? But in circumstances where you're not in the same division as your local rival, and we haven't been for a long time, we've only had one game against them for a long time, then that's the best that's the best we've had. So and we've done well against them. We've done reasonably well against them, so that's been fine. Quite happy for them to be a local rival. But yeah, no, I unfortunately don't have the sort of, I don't know many Villa fans. I know one or two Villa fans, even less arguably West Brom fans. So yeah, it's not from a local perspective. I don't necessarily, if I go into work on Monday, it's not going to make it's going to be. At the moment, it's generally Wolves are not doing well, are they? And everyone knows who I support because it's a bit different. So yeah, but it would be nice just in general to have a win to talk about, whether it's against Villa or anyone at the moment. I'll take anything.
Yeah, that's fair. And I'll really quickly just say thanks to the people already in the chat. Max Wright, as always, just already in straight away, even fellow sadists and Wolves fans. I'm pretty sure we're all pretty much one and the same right now. We're here going to talk about playing against the team fifth in the league on Sunday, and the man, the myth, the legend, Stu from the Fancast is also in the chat as well. So please get your questions, anything that we don't cover, drop it in the chat and let us know. But we'll jump straight into the thoughts for the weekend. So as always, Little Dan's done an amazing job getting all this set up behind the scenes. Ali, you might as well carry on because you were talking, mate. But from Rob's comments, I've taken some of the some of the bullet points from Rob's press conference this afternoon. We got Matt Doherty has returned to training, but it's probably a bit too soon for him. Dan Bentley's out for a few more weeks. I didn't know he wasn't even available. he's talked about this week's training at the club as being smoother than last week. Still a little bit bitty is the words he's used. But it's been an easier week because of the consistency of the group to work with. And I think the comments that we've got on the screen there, it talks about this game at the weekend being a difficult game. He used the word realism an awful lot about whether or not we have a chance of staying up, which we'll touch on later. But general thoughts on sort of Rob's demeanour here and what to look forward to for this weekend.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you in terms of the vibe that I got, which was it felt less optimistic and when Rob spoke, and where it all sort of felt much more positive and much more, look, we're still, well within a chance of staying up, and we've got a chance. We've got a chance of winning this game. I mean, there's a lot of, I can't recall the phrase. Is it getting over the line or something? There's a lot of, once they're over the line, I want to see this from them. And he's saying all the right things in terms of we want to see work rate, and we want to see, more running, tackling, more passion, all these sort of things. But I mean, I don't know. My view is necessarily that it probably aren't the things that have been lacking. They have been lacking in certain games, but that isn't the issue. The issue is the quality. And so he's saying things that fans want to hear. And, there probably was an element against Palace where they looked more up for it and that we put a bit more into it, but that isn't necessarily our issue. They can, effort-wise, I've not watched that many games where I felt like they weren't trying. I just don't think they've necessarily got the ability, or they're not being set up in a way that they can actually win games. And I felt Rob's press conference today, sort of the fact that he used the word realism, and he sort of spoke about that we're realistic about the situation we're in. We all want to get us out of this, but we're realistic about it. The fact that he said, but we're realistic about it, probably told us that he knows as well where we are. So yeah, and he spoke up Villa as, and Villa are a good team, but they're not someone we should be that petrified of. And they've had some good results. The result against Bournemouth was a bit of a standout result that they've had. But the game against Leeds last week, Leeds were 1-up against them at half time. That they're not unbeatable, and we shouldn't be going into games thinking that we're completely out. We haven't got any chance. That isn't the right way to go. But I agree with you. I felt there was a bit of a, from last week to this week, there felt as though he'd kind of tempered expectations a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, and do you think, Jay, that's because what he saw and what he talked about, or I'll pick out another quote for you to talk around, but on what he learned from his first game against Crystal Palace is there was lots of tactical things we need to improve on. There's a phrase around Sherlock and shit there that you could probably throw in. That'll continue to be the case for a while. It's not a quick fix. There's lots we need to do to try and fix that. What is it that you think, if you could, Rob had a magic wand, what's the one thing that you'd want him to sort of get a handle on as quickly as he could?
Scoring goals. We just don't offer enough of a threat going forward. And I think before last weekend, we were all quite positive, weren't we? And then we come crashing back down to earth with that performance on Saturday. And Rob's probably come into it thinking there's some quality in this side, and then he's had 2 weeks of training and changed his mind. I can't really blame him. Like I said, it's a little bit defeatist, but he's right, isn't he? You can't really argue with him too much. He's spot on.
No, and is it just sort of a continuation of the apathy that we've all been feeling this year, do we think?
Little bit. Like it is really tough going, and it can't be easy for Rob coming into this situation as it is. I think as a Premier League team, you can get away with being low quality if you've got the fitness and the energy going into it. But we just haven't got that. I think was it Greg last week was talking about the fitness levels at this club.
It was,
and that feels like that's our biggest issue. I think if we were a bit fitter, we would have been better against Palace. We got to a bend there with Mark, and he just fell to pieces. If we got that little bit extra, I think we could have pushed it further. It's going to take time, and it just kind of feels like we wait until January at this point and hoping that a good transfer window is going to solve everything. But it just kind of feels like they're saying just enough to keep us on side as it is. We just need to hope we're not dead and buried by the time we get there. Like, we feel like we're on life support at the moment, but we're not quite dead and buried. But it's looming. It's looming.
Yeah, and Jay, on that, we've had a comment in the chat from Max Wright again about unreal that Tolu is apparently still not Premier League fit. Apparently, and Andy was right that it was Greg that sort of highlighted last week that we don't look fit enough. Is that a concern that you've got for the side right now?
Yes and no. It probably could be thrown at them, but I think more than anything that what killed us last week is confidence. As soon as that first goal goes in, you might as well be game over because we've just got no threat going forward. The one on Tolu is it's spot on. I mean, it's the fact that he's 12 games into the season, he's still not fit. It's probably a little bit to be said for the fact that he hasn't had a lot of game time, those 12 games. Probably if you're going to blood him a bit more, which in my opinion we probably should have with Strand Larsen's form. But yeah, it's difficult to get game fitness if you're not playing games. Even for Nigeria, he was coming off the bench. He wasn't getting an awful lot of time. But that signing looks stranger as the weeks go by. And I don't understand why we spent that money on him when it was so obvious that we needed width, pace. Spend 24 million on a striker who still isn't fit 12 games in. He's looks absolutely daft.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he joined telling us that he wasn't fit as well. So the one thing you can say about him is he was honest from the get-go. So there's a few comments that have come in, Ali, in terms of this could be the game. Sharky has put in, is this the game to come in and turn our season around? He's put here, he or she, sorry, has put here, we can get at these. Just need an early goal to shut them up, get the fans turned, and we could nick something. You mentioned Leeds getting an early goal against them last week, but evidently not being able to hold on to it. Is there a possibility that we could do that?
There's always a possibility, but as Jay says, I think the glaring issue we have is an inability to score goals or look like we're a threat. It's a remarkable we've managed to put together a squad, which I actually think on paper, when you read it, goes, well, they're all okay, but they don't. There's no way of putting them into a system that necessarily works. You know, they're not necessarily. We can't play on the counter attack because we haven't got pace. Who, in theory, could play a system that we could be tough to beat, but there's no point being tough to beat if you've got no threat on the counter. Whereas we have, you know, Strand Larsen, who, you know, clearly is a player who can score goals at this level if he is given the service, but he has no one to give him the service. And if you put Tolu up with him, that doesn't really make any difference. You've just got two people there who don't get any service, and they can cause a nuisance. But if there's no wingers or there's no creativity behind them, there's nothing. They're not going to create chances for themselves, are they? They're not strikers who are going to create their own chances. They need players to create stuff for them, and they can't do that. So you feel like going into a game against Villa, you will need to have something that you're going to be able. You're either going to be able to have to sit back and hit them on the break, and so you'll need some pace, or you need some sort of creativity. So something will probably need to change from what he lined up with last week. And yeah, so I don't think it's a completely hopeless cause. And any, you know, we've seen results this season that have gone against the mould, and you'll see them every season. And it would be a massive result if we could do something. Whether it keeps us up, it feels like this team just needs a win from somewhere. We've had wins in the League Cup that then haven't quite translated. It does feel like a win in the league would be a bit of a monkey off their back and say, right, we've won a game. There's something to build off. Every other game when we've had something, the Tottenham game, it was sort of, we got a point, we played well, but we got sort of kicked in the guts with a last-minute goal. Brighton played better, kicked in the guts with a sort of a last-minute goal. And, you know, the way those games have panned out just seems like it summarises our season. There's been bits that have been okay and we look okay, but overall it just isn't there. And we're getting punished we are getting punished all the time, and Villa will punish us. So I think, what did Edwards say today? We all need to be 9.5 out of 10 to get something that's probably fair. We need to be that. It's not impossible, but I dare say it's unlikely, and we need them to probably have a bit of an off day, don't we?
Yeah, it's a slightly big act, I think, there for everyone to be 9.5 out of 10. I would say. Talking about our season as a whole, obviously there's an awful lot of gallows humour, and not just in the comments section, but just in general around Wolves this year. And of course, that the derby points and whether or not we'll get there loom heavily. And there's a former Villa player that makes his name on Talk Radio that had this to say on Wolves, his potential season this year. So if we could all just pray silence for a little bit of Gabriel Agbonlahor for 58 seconds.
I looked at Wolves, 2 points so far this season, an absolute shambles, and I went through their games. Villa away the next game. I think they get 1 point out of that. They turn up against Villa. Forest at home, 0. Manchester United at home, 0. Arsenal away, 0. Brentford at home, 1 point. Liverpool away, 0. Manchester United away, 0. West Ham at home, 1 point. Everton away, 0. Newcastle at home, 0. Man City away, 0. Bournemouth at home, 1 point. Chelsea at home, 0. Forest away, 0. Palace away, 0. Villa at home, 1 point. Liverpool at home, 0. Brentford away, 0. Arsenal at home, 0.
Whoa.
West Ham away, 0. Leeds away, 1 point. Spurs at home, 0. Sunderland at home, 1 point. Brighton away, 0. Fulham at home, second to last game, 3 points. Burnley away, last game of the season, 1 point. So Wolves will finish on 13 points.
So, I mean, whether or not Gabriel Agbonlahor could have counted past 13, I'll leave to people in the comments to decide on whether or not he stopped at 13 because he ran out of fingers. But Andy, is this where our season is heading at the minute? Obviously, I don't want to be all doom and gloom, but we are stuck with an ownership we all hate that we want out, that we can't arrange how best to get rid of them. But are we, at the minute, is our first goal to get past that derby low watermark?
It does have to be, doesn't it? Like, I hate to say it, because I do think there's an element, and every football pundit says it, and we're just as guilty of it. You look at the last couple of games, and that's going to define the whole season, and it doesn't really work like that in the real world. So it could be just as likely that we finish on 30 points and still get relegated. It's just the way football works. But the fact that Agbonlahor said it makes me think we're going to finish on 9 points, because he's a fucking idiot and doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, there's a few people in the comments that are agreeing with you there. But Jay, is this where you think our season's heading?
I think it's going to be bad, but I don't think it's going to be quite that bad. Anybody could scroll through teams and just shout 0 and 1 point and at every fixture. It looks like it looks a bit dire. The main concern is that we're dead and buried by January, and they decide that they're not going to spend any money and just write the season off. And then fans going disillusioned, players probably down tools. You'd hope that a bit of players' pride would kick in and they'd try and pick up enough points as many points as they can, literally just pure determination. But that is the biggest concern. It's literally that the season's written off in January and we've got nowhere to go, because this squad's not good enough to. I mean, it's just definitely not good enough to stay up. It's probably just about good enough to beat that derby record, but not if everybody's pulling in different directions and already given up.
Yeah, no, definitely, and that it feels as though that's when I was talking to Little Dan around this earlier. That felt like I initially said to him, Ali, that's like, is that our first goal for the season to get there? And then I instantly then replied with, but is that the first goal and the only goal that we can achieve? I don't know if I'm being pessimistic. Am I being far too negative here, Ali, or are we staring at trying to get past that 11 points?
Yeah, I'm gonna bring a wave of positivity to say that according to Opta, we should be on 11 points. Is that right? I think according to our XG things. So yeah, let's say we're being too negative, and that actually over the course of a season, if you average, the sample size isn't big enough yet, and we may not stay up, but we will do better than 11 points. And I don't think I'm say we'll stay up, but I do genuinely think we haven't had any luck whatsoever, and there have been things that have gone against us. That, Spurs away, Brighton away. I think there are games where, yes, we're not good. We can't get away from that, but we're not 2 points. We're not worse than that Derby team necessarily. I think it's still, we're at nearly a third of the way in. They may strengthen in January. I think we will get over that. Whether that's a target, I don't know what their target is. It's very hard. What do you target? I don't know. It will just be every game, next game. Let's see what you can get out of it. But yeah, let's say on the basis that according to Opta, we should have more points than we do now, which is 11, which is where Derby finished. Let's say that over the sample size, we will get there. And maybe some things will start to go our way a bit, even if we have to sort of fluke our way to a couple of wins here or there. We will get past 11.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, we're just about to go on a very, very short break for those of you watching on YouTube. But before I do that, with Christmas coming up, and you may or may not want to buy a T-shirt that tells Jeff and his spreadsheets what we think of him. We do have a 10% discount at the Wolves Fancast shop, tmeal.com. It'll be in the show notes after it, and it will be in the YouTube comments as well. But if you use the code TAKE10 at checkout, you can get 10% off our merch. If you'd rather give your money, hard-earned money, to the Fancast than Jeff and his spreadsheets. But for those watching currently, just give us 7 seconds and we'll be right back to talk about Villa and whether we think that we can make any changes to the team. So welcome back to the Fancast. For those that are watching live, that was very, very quick. Looking at Villa's form, Andy, they are a force to be reckoned with. We have actually got a Villa fan in the comments out of nowhere that have mentioned the fact that there's a chance for Villa to go second this weekend with a win, saying that's more than enough motivation for their players that are, according to him, are getting no recognition. Don't quite know where he's getting that from. They're fifth in the league at the minute. But if you look at their last 7 wins, their last 7 games, sorry, Andy, that they have won all of them at Villa Park. Are we on a hiding to nothing here? How impressed have you been with Villa this season?
They started off slowly, and I thought there was a chance that Unai Emery has done what Unai Emery does, and you get to that certain point and it catches up with him. But actually, they've sort of kicked on a bit and done really well, to be fair to them. I think a few people had wrote them off this season because of obviously being in Europe and in the league. Something's going to give. But actually, they've done really well. I've been quite impressed with them. They've been a decent team to watch. They've been hard to beat, as is evidenced by their home form. They've got a very strong manager. They've spent the money. They've got the rewards of that, I think. So, I disagree. I don't think that they've been, overlooked this season at all. I think they've been judged to be where they are, and rightly so.
Yeah, it's a season as well of teams surprising us, and we've had some basket case. Not just Wolves. We had the Ange debacle at Forest, which has drawn a lot of attention, as well as Man United, of course, constantly being a weird team that one week look like they're back, and then the next week they're awful again. And even when players are fighting against them, they still seem to mess up. But Jay, coming to you, who are the danger men we need to be looking out for then? Who of your Villa mates been telling you that he's going to tear us a new one on Sunday?
They all love Rodgers, don't they? He's a hell of a player. But the one that I've got kind of an eye on at the minute is Marlon. He looks like he a threat. He scored 2 in the week. He scored 2 on Thursday night, and set up set the first goal up against Leeds, the equaliser. He looks a tricky customer, to be fair. But that's the different. See, we were talking about Opta and the stats and stuff, and Wolves have been unlucky, but you look at it the other way. Villa's XG is not particularly high, but they've got quality, and that can hurt you. They don't need to create high quality chances to score goals. I think Watkins is probably proof of that. He's not scoring at the minute. He hasn't. Has he got? I'm not sure he scored this season, has he? Maybe one or two. But
I think he's got one. I think from memory, he's got one. He's tapped in, I think. But yeah, he's been leading their line, but not necessarily getting any goals.
The goals are coming from like Rodgers and Buendia, like free kicks and good goals. And to be fair to them, but like I said, they're not creating that many chances. But yeah, that's the difference, isn't it? A bit of quality up top. What we're missing.
Yeah, and talking about what we're missing, Ali, for those that are listening back on however you catch your pods, we've currently got the last lineup from Crystal Palace on the screen, which was, of course, Johnston and Agbadou, Krejci, Totti. We had Wolf, Sonic on the right, and then we had the midfield three of Andre, Joao Gomez, Manetzi, and then the Twin Towers up front. Ali, are there any changes there that you think that, you know, maybe our bench isn't what we want it to be, like Jay was talking about, but is there any changes there that you think we could implement?
I think he will change it. I think he kind of gave away, didn't he, today in the press conference, saying that sort of match press conference that kind of the lineup he'd picked and the formation he'd picked for the last game was kind of, you had to factor in the fact there'd been an international break and he hadn't had the time to sort of work with certain players. I think there's every chance Bellegarde comes in back into that lineup, possibly for Tolu, maybe, given his comments today that he's not quite fit yet. As remarkable as that is, so maybe he comes in. I think elsewhere it's tricky, isn't it? Because we don't know. We have literally no idea who he really fancies. Because as you say, there will have been players there like Santi Bueno who maybe might have felt a bit hard done by to be dropped. That he will have been away with international duty. Yeah, that there will be players there who will have been coming back late who probably answer playing. So I think. Well, we need someone else who is creative. So I suspect either Bellegarde or Arias comes into that team, and I think it's probably Bellegarde for Tolu. And then whether down the left, whether Moller Wolf was played as a bit of a foil for Munoz last week, and whether Bueno has another shout, I think that's up for grabs. That shirt at left wing back. I think it will still be a back three. I think it's then between whether Bueno comes back in and whether maybe Totti falls out. Krejci could come step into midfield maybe, but I think the majority of that team probably stays the same. I just think there's probably one or two that come in, and I think it'll be Bellegarde and maybe one other.
Brilliant. And Andy, I'll pop it back up just so you can see it again. But is there anything there that you'd add to what Alice has talked about? Is there anyone there that you think maybe needs either a rest or just swapping out of the team?
There's really not much you can do, is that? I mean, you take number 5 out immediately. You just leave him on the M6 for fuck's sake. And I think you put Bellegarde in there because I do think he's got more legs. I know he can be a bit inconsistent, but he's very much the kind of player where when he's in the thick of it, I feel like he grows into the game. He's had a couple of good games against Villa in the past as well. So why not use that little bit of experience he's had and try and grow it? So bring him in. I'm not a big fan of Totti, and I feel like without Ryan Aït-Nouri next to him, he's really been shown up this season. And whether you go with Wolf or Hugo Bueno, it's the difference between shit and poo, isn't it? Like, there's just nothing really to make you want to make that sub. So do you move Krejci over to left centre back? Bueno in the middle, maybe, but then Bueno's not the most aggressive. It's really difficult. It's a really difficult choice he's got. So, I mean, I'm glad I don't get paid the money to make those calls because I genuinely I could give you 10 different team sheets and probably come up with an 11th 10 minutes before kick-off tomorrow that we should have gone with, because it's just all over the place at the moment.
Yeah, and Jay, I'll ask the question, but I'll phrase it slightly differently because we are starting to get a few comments in. There's a lot of people wanting Tolu dropped. Some people saying Arias, some people saying Bellegarde. My concern with not playing both of the Twin Towers, although probably need a better nickname for them, is that Villa are huge. Nearly every single player is over 6 foot. And the one thing that I felt that we could level at both of our forwards last week against Crystal Palace is they did an awful lot of good in the defensive box. Maybe not where we want them to be, but is the possibility of dropping Tolu means that are we going to be maybe one man too short as well for Villa, who do really well from set pieces?
We said that in the review show, didn't we, last week? They were both probably better defensively than they were going forward. And Villa do love a set piece. Realistically, Rob Edwards likes a 3-4-3, isn't he? 2 inside forwards. He did that with Luton. He switched it. He started with a front 2 and then switched it to a front 3. But like we say, we'd look talking about taking Venezia at the team, Tolu at the team, and replacing them with probably Bellegarde and Arias. That is, there's probably 2 foot there. You're losing at the height of the whole team. There's a balance to be found, isn't there? You've got to pick a team that's going to suit playing Villa, but then you've also got to try and pick your best side. So like Andy says, I'd take the money, but I don't really want the responsibility of picking that team.
Yeah, there's a few comments. Max Wright here, Ali has talked about giving some of our youngsters a chance, like an Enzo, a Mane, or Lopez. Do we think that we are at the time now to make those types of changes, or is it still slightly too early in the season?
No, I don't think we do. But I think there's a couple of reasons why. I don't think it's just because it's too early. And I think it is too early. I think we're too early to be throwing them in and sort of writing it off. I don't think we are in the position yet where we can write it off. I'm not saying we're going to stay up, but a couple of wins and you start to get back in touch and all the rest of it. So I think it's too early to do that. But I also just don't think it actually does those players any good. Just chucking them in and saying, oh, well, let's see what Mane looks like. Let's see what Enzo looks like. That actually doesn't, it's not sort of necessarily like it's going to do that. It's not sort of like one of those things where you go, oh, well, let's chuck them in because that will then mean their development's good. That actually it's probably has the worst effect. Throwing them into a team that's underperforming and getting beat every week, I don't think that's going to do any of them any good. We've seen it with Nathan Fraser, Chiomne, and other players who clearly weren't ready and have been thrown in at the wrong time. So actually, I think I totally understand where people come from saying, let's see Mane. We've seen enough of Menezzi, we've seen enough of Hwang. Let's throw Mane in, let's throw Enzo in, or whoever. I totally get it. I totally get it, but I think actually it's probably not in their best interests to chuck them in to a team that's getting beat every week. Long-term development, it's not going to tell us anything. You're still better try and blood them in as best you can, and it probably isn't just sort of let's just throw them into a starting 11 away at Villa or wherever it might be, where we've got little chance of getting anything. I think actually you still have to, as you would have done it before. So no, I totally understand where that comes from, but I don't think that's actually going to do them any good long term to just chuck them into this team. I think actually it probably has the opposite effect. We do more harm than good.
Wouldn't mind seeing him in the squad on a bench.
Yeah,
maybe give him
absolutely.
10 minutes here or there. But starting it's not that time. Yeah,
absolutely having him in the squad, in and around the squad, and to bring on when there's that bringing Mane on against Chelsea, that felt there's nothing to lose here. We're 3-0 down, but I think putting them in these pressure scenarios of saying let's just forget, let's forget everyone else and just put them in. It just isn't. That's not going to help them. Just giving them opportunities off the bench when we can, as you would normally do, just blood them in. I think that does make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant. Well, you did say one of my trigger words there. You mentioned Hwang, and I hadn't brought him up yet. So rather than me go on a rant about that, let's move focus slightly away from Wolves before we do one of the famous Fancast quizzes after this. But Jay, I'll come to you first. What I always phrase it as: you found a pound in your jeans that you didn't know you had. What are you throwing it on this week?
I think Man City Leeds is probably Man City at home. It's the banker, isn't it? But you're not going to get very good odds on that one. Maybe West Ham against Liverpool. Maybe that run could continue. They're obviously playing really, really badly. We know what Nuno can do to a side like Liverpool. Playing in a way that Arne Slot doesn't want the teams to play against him. That could be one to keep an eye on. And then the big game, it's been cut off at the bottom there, isn't it? Is it Chelsea Arsenal? That should be
yes. That's the last game.
Quite a good game on Sunday evening.
How about you, Andy? Where are you throwing that quid that you just found?
Like there's some interesting looking games. Like I think Brentford and Burnley should be good. Two teams. I think Brentford are 3-5 wins. Burnley are 2-5. Brentford looked like they were going to struggle this season, but have done quite well. Burnley have looked like they've struggled because they haven't got the quality there, but they've managed to build a team that's not the easiest to break down. So I feel like that could be an interesting watch. I would put my money on Brentford, I think, there, but I think that would also be a good game to watch too.
And what about you, Ali? Where's that quid going?
I think if you're looking for some value, you probably are looking at sort of a West Ham or maybe Palace at home to United. You might get a bit more value there. I mean, the banker is City, obviously, but yeah, maybe Palace at home to United.
Yeah, and fellow Fancastian Eddie has put in the great name as well, from one Edward to another. Something that was brought up in former Fancast's Gully's blog until Mane entered the field on the 70th minute against Chelsea. There was a real prospect that Wolves were going to go an entire season without playing a British outfield player. Is that much of an issue for you, Andy?
It is a little bit. Like I don't think it's the be all end all, but at the same time, I think you need to have that little bit of a link to the local area, at least something just to keep it slightly grounded. When we've got players going off here, there, and everywhere all across the world, I think you need to have someone who can be a bit of a lightning rod and bring them all back. And I think getting a few British players in January, I think would be quite helpful as well. And just try and build a little bit of Britishness back into the team.
Yeah, Jay, Wolves were, especially when I was growing up, we littered the leagues with talents from the youth, and now we're talking about whether or not they're good enough to be blooded at all. Do you think that is a bit of an issue that we have sort of lost the identity, especially with the way Fosun have been managing us over the last few years?
A little bit, but then you look at players like Ruben Neves and João Gomes, and no ties to Wolverhampton whatsoever, but they are, they're cult heroes, and we all love them. There's the worry about not bringing players through the ranks. That's obviously, it's like a free market. If you got those players coming through, then you can save yourself an absolute fortune. But we don't. I mean, the last one's Gibbs White, isn't it? Before that, I can't really think of anybody, but for a long time anyway. But yeah, it's the academy is obviously not performing particularly well, and that is a shame, really. Not to see more players coming through, and it gives you a bit of something to get behind as well, doesn't it?
And just thank you to David. I've been saying Villa have been fifth all evening, but apparently they're fourth. So apologies for that. Also, Gully's been called Banana Man in the chat. So whatever's going on right now in the chat is unbelievable. Right, gents, before I get you to nail your colours to the mast and give me a prediction, and we say goodbye to the ladies and gents that are watching or listening to us, we do have a quickfire quiz where we have some initials that will pop up on the screen. For instance, it could be first name starting with Z, surname Z. What I want from you is either a Wolves player that matches that for 2 points, or any footballer at all male or female, if you've got football female knowledge. And that's for 1 point. It'll pop up on the screen, so I'm not going to be able to see who says what they say first. So those in the chat as well, join in. So if you just say your name, and then I'll give you like 5 seconds to give an answer. So just shout out your name and then give me your answer, and I'll do an old-fashioned tally chart. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think we've got six here. So and hopefully we don't need a tiebreaker. I'll have to make one up if we do. Okay, right, lads, you ready? This is the first one. Footballer initials A and B. Doesn't have to be a Wolves player.
Aaron Wan-Bissaka. No, Wan-Bissaka.
No, that's a W.
Andy, is it Alan Brown? Used to play for Burnley.
Oh,
I
mate,
don't know if I've just made that up. I think I may have done. I've got to be honest.
Well, I'll take it because we don't have any others. We've got Alan Brown as the first one.
It's got to be one at some point, doesn't it?
Is it John Smith? Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, so hopefully the next one there's definitely at least 2 Wolves players that I've thought about for this next one, but it can be anyone again. So just shout out your name again, lads. And it's JB.
Andy, Josh Brownhill.
Yep, there we go.
I'm just sticking with Burnley players. Yeah.
Could we have had John Bellegarde for that? Would that have counted?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. I didn't want to make it. I didn't want to do it again.
Well, I just went with Jay Bothroyd for that one. Because it's just J with J.
Like we said earlier, if it doesn't pop straight into your head, it's tough, isn't it?
Yeah, Eddie has come in with AB, who's just Alan Ball, won the World Cup, but we went with Alan Brown, who may or may not even be a real footballer. Right. Number 3 of 6. Here we go, lads. Casey and the Sunshine Band.
Andy, Keith Curl.
Oh, there we go. I think that was just about Andy, but good shout. So, Andy, at the minute you're romping with 4-0. Right. Let's just check the chat. Yeah, we had a few people now saying that Bellegarde is coming in now. So yeah, we missed an open goal there. Right. Next one, lads. Shout out your names. I've got at least 1 Wolves player with these initials. And we will not accept Steve McDonald from Coronation Street for this one.
Ali Sean Maloney.
Yep, that'll do. Jay, you're lagging behind at the minute, mate.
No, I'm just welcome.
I just said any player then, just to try not finish last.
Right, next one. We have MB.
Andy Michael Branch.
One of my personal favourites. I had him down. I loved him. What he did after his career, we can't really talk about. But Andy, I think you ran away with it, mate. It's currently 5-1-0. With the last one to come up, and I couldn't think of any footballer for these initials that Dan's given us here. So everyone can have 2 points if they get anything for this one. AA. I'll tell you what I couldn't stop thinking was Andre Agassi, who, of course, is not only not a Wolves player, he's not even a footballer. Oh, there's a few people that are coming in the chat with names. Oh. Right, we'll give this one as a pass, but yeah, Andre Arshavin is what the name that's been shouted out from the chat here. So yeah, Andy, well done, mate. You won that, despite the fact that you weren't exactly over enthusiastic about playing the quiz before we went live. Right. Lads, thank you for your time tonight. Before we go, I do want predictions from everyone. So, Andy, as you won the quiz, you can go first. Now, Eddie's now playing to my other love, which is The Simpsons in the chat. So that's going to put me off. But Andy, where are we going? Sunday, Villa Park. We're down in Birmingham. We're bottom of the league. Where are we
Heart
going?
is saying 1-1, but Head is saying like a 3-1 loss.
So which
I'm
one
going to
we-
go with my heart. I'm going to go with my heart. We'll say 1-1. I'll be as positive as I can muster at the moment. 1-1.
How about you, Ali?
I'm normally really positive with these things, but I think we probably go down 2 or 3-0.
Jay?
1-0 Villa. Sorry.
Yeah. No, don't be. This is where we are right now, isn't it? It's the realism. I had 1-1 down, and then because I was talking with my lad about this before, and then he said, "Who's going to score the goal?" And then that made me stop him. I don't know. An own goal from someone is where I went with it. So I also went with 1-1. I'm hoping that I think the guy in the chat was called Sharky, who was a lot more positive than I've been. Got a few people in the chat saying 2-1 to Wolves. It is then followed with a lull. So I don't know how much they believe in it or not. Max Wright, a loyal follower, has gone to 2-0 to Villa. So it's not looking great, but who knows? We could be. This could be the start of our season, at least getting to that first mini goal of beating Derby's record, and then see where we go from there. For those that are travelling to Villa Park on Sunday, Godspeed. The away support is always incredible. Hopefully, we have something to cheer about. There'll be someone's now coming with 7-0 Wolves, which is definitely time that we say goodnight. Hopefully, we have a preview show for you, I think, on Sunday after the game. If not, it'll be Monday night, talking about how it goes. Hopefully, it will be more positive than I've been this evening. But thank you very much, Jay, Andy, and Ali, for joining us tonight, and for everyone that stayed with us throughout this evening. Good luck to those going. Stay safe. I'm pretty sure it's a dry stadium, so you might also have to watch it only drunk whatever you could drink before you got into the ground. So good luck with that as well, and up the Wolves.
Who would be a Wolves fan, eh?